Today, we're talking the top buys and sells for fantasy football ahead of week 4. And when you're making your deals this week, be sure to use our trade calculator at yardsperfantasy.com. It's fully customizable, it's free to use, and you'll never lose a trade again. Find it now at yardsperfantasy.com/trade-calculator. Other than his touchdown in week 1, Ladd McConkey has been quiet to begin his rookie season. He has just 10 catches for 109 yards and that 1 touchdown through 3 weeks. He's the wide receiver 53 while averaging 9 fantasy points per game. However, I am putting in trade offers for Ladd McConkey this week. That's because while the production hasn't really been there, the Chargers are involving the rookie pretty heavily in this offense. He leads the team with 17 targets, and he has target shares of 27%, 20%, and 30% to begin the season. That indicates to me that the production is coming. He has very little target competition in that offense, and he is a top 10 quarterback. Even if the Chargers do like to run the ball, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for Ladd McConkey to make plays. And he's fantastic after the catch, which is only going to help maximize his production. Now, the only asterisk I would put on this trade target is that it's very possible the Chargers rest Justin Herbert in week 4 after he aggravated his ankle injury in week 3. And then they're on a bye in week 5, so we might not see Justin Herbert until week 6. So you might be able to wait a couple of weeks and get him even cheaper. Rashid Shaheed was the talk of fantasy football after 2 weeks. He had scored long touchdowns in both games to begin the season, and he was scoring as a top 15 wide receiver in fantasy football. That all came crashing back down to earth in week 3 when Rashid Shaheed put up a goose egg in the box score. That's right, 0 catches, 0 yards, 0 touchdowns. However, that wasn't because Rashid Shaheed's role just suddenly went away. He still ran around on 89% of Derek Carr's dropbacks, and he was targeted 5 times, which was good enough for a very respectable 21.7% target share. And things were this close to being so different for Rashid Shaheed. He and Derek Carr narrowly missed on another long touchdown. The ball went off Rashid Shaheed's chest as he was battling with the defender at the goal line. And despite 0 receiving yards, Rashid Shaheed still finished number 13 in the NFL in air yards with 105, which accounted for 58% of the team's total air yards. Air yards, routes run, and target share are all very strong indicators of future production, and Rashid Shaheed continues to check all of those boxes. We were drafting Rashid Shaheed as a boom or bust wide receiver anyway, weren't we? And yet his role, despite the complete bust in week 3, is that of a wide receiver who might actually be a more consistent contributor than originally expected. This is not the Rashid Shaheed role of old. He's a true number 2 wide receiver in this offense. And we could get a major bounce back as early as week 4 against the Falcons. I'm putting in my trade offers right now. Every week I do a Sunday morning start-sit show right here on the Yards Per Fantasy YouTube channel. And on this past weekend's show, I declared it a get-right day for the Bears passing attack. And oh baby, was I right. And I even took things a step further and predicted it would be the breakout game that we've been waiting for from Odunze. Hello, it all happened and it was beautiful. And that means DJ Moore and Odunze are buy highs, and that's okay. It's perfectly acceptable to buy high in fantasy football, especially when we can project these players to ascend even further. Caleb Williams and the Bears offense is only going to get better from here. They didn't peak in week 3. That was just a glimpse of what is to come. And Odunze was especially impressive with his 6 catches on 11 targets for 112 yards and a touchdown. And he did that on a team high 22% target share. He ran around on 98.2% of Caleb Williams' dropbacks, and he led the NFL with a whopping 245 air yards. It was really only a matter of time before we got a performance like this from Odunze, who was an incredible prospect coming out of Washington. And for DJ Moore, he wasn't quite as impressive, but he still got there with 8 catches for 78 yards on 10 targets. But again, we're buying because this is the start of the Bears offense getting right, specifically the passing game. They're just starting to figure it out with Caleb Williams. Things are only going to go up from here, and looking ahead the next 4 weeks, the Bears draw matchups against the Rams, Panthers, Jaguars, and Commanders. All 4 have proven to be susceptible to the pass this season. So buy your Bears and start your Bears. Jayden Reed has been quiet over the last 2 weeks with performances of 6.6 fantasy points and 10.9 fantasy points. He has just 6 catches for 59 yards over those 2 games. However, that's come with Malik Willis at quarterback. And while Malik Willis has certainly exceeded expectations and he led the Packers to 2 victories, his limitations have put a hard cap on the fantasy production coming out of Green Bay. We could get Jordan Love back under center as soon as week 4, though. And the last time we saw Jordan Love on the field, Jayden Reed gave us a wide receiver 1 overall performance. In fact, if we go back to last season, Jayden Reed ended his rookie campaign with 7 top 25 fantasy performances over his last 8 regular season games. And he cracked the top 12 in 4 of those. Jayden Reed is the most explosive player in the Packers offense, and the team wants to get the football in his hands in as many ways as possible. He catches short passes, he catches down the field passes, they get him going on screens, jet sweeps, and even hand it to him out of the backfield. He has continued to be the most targeted player in the Packers offense under Malik Willis. It's just the volume and the quality of the passing offense is underwhelming. A healthy Jordan Love would do wonders for Jayden Reed. So I'm buying wherever I can. And if you believe Jayden Reed benefits from a Jordan Love return and a shootout against the Vikings, then you can play this pick'em on Underdog. Lock in your pick now and use promo code YARDSPUR to get a free pick and a deposit offer of up to $1,000. That's promo code YARDSPUR on Underdog. Let's get it. We're going to go rapid fire for 2 more buys and 2 more sells ahead of week 4. But before we do that, if you're enjoying this video, you find it at all valuable, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And drop your trade questions in the comments or hit me up on the Yards Per Fantasy Discord. I'm always happy to help. Let's start with Tucker Kraft. We are buying Tucker Kraft. You might even be able to pick him up off your waiver wire. We thought it might be Luke Musgrave, but it's becoming very clear that Tucker Kraft is the #1 tight end in Green Bay. Once Jordan Love comes back, Tucker Kraft has a very real chance of becoming a startable fantasy asset in a bare tight end landscape. We talked about him last week, and we're going right back to Brandon Ayuk after he was overshadowed by Jauan Jennings in week 3. We know who Brandon Ayuk is. We've seen it for years. He's going to get it going. I mean, he's still accounted for 1/3 of the team's targets despite the blow-up performance from Jennings. Buy low, buy low, buy low. And speaking of Jauan Jennings, that week 3 performance is not repeatable. He's usable for a couple more weeks, but once the other weapons start making their way back into the lineup, Jauan Jennings is going to fade right back into the background. If you don't need him in your lineup in week 4, cash out now. Maybe it's take lock, maybe it's conviction, I don't know. Whatever it is, I'm still selling Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams has put up the least impressive 30-point performance by a running back I've ever seen. In a game where the Rams were without all of their wide receivers and were in comeback mode, Kyren Williams was targeted twice. The offensive line is a problem, and without any wide receivers, they're going to have a really hard time making all those trips to the red zone or even coming close to scoring 27 points again. That means the touchdown-dependent Kyren Williams could become the touchdown-less Kyren Williams. And without touchdowns, what really is Kyren Williams? And don't you forget, Corum is coming.